Hello and welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated cryptocurrency, businesses, real estate, save a failed 1031 exchange, a primary home. Also, you can create and preserve more wealth by deferring millions of dollars in capital gains tax. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts. Each episode, I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and sometimes cash flow ninjas in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. He's actually a repeat guest. I think this is the third time that he's been on the show, and he's on a mission to help you be financially free through cash flow. Okay. And he coaches, he educates, and he's helping you to think outside of the box to create freedom and legacy on your own terms and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, MC Laubscher. Hey, MC, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. Excited to have you back on the show. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah, I'm originally from South Africa. I've lived in the United States now for 20 years. Time flies when you're having fun. Originally came here for sports, played in a sports league over here, but discovered just invest and business as I was studying while I was playing sports. Obviously, I came across Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book by Robert Kiyosaki, and that really started my journey. So I took action, bought my first investment property shortly there. And then ever since then, I've been a student of investing in this. I try to pursue excellence in my craft as an investor and as an entrepreneur daily. I'm the creator and host of the Cashflow Ninja podcast. And we also have an educational company, full-blown educational company, Cashflow Ninja, where we have made it our mission to reach as many people as possible and help them to become self-reliant through actionable education and help them capitalize on their economic opportunities of massive change and disruption, which is the time that we're living on right now. And then I'm also involved in several other businesses. I have a company called Producers Wealth, where we help folks implement and execute a very powerful strategy, which includes life insurance. We do that in all 50 states through the United States, and then also Producers Capital Partners, where we're involved in a ton of different real estate projects, whether it be multifamily, resorts, and also energy efficient projects. So involved with a lot of things, but folks have probably come across my show here and there, Cashflow Ninja, where we talk a lot about cash flow, and we talk a lot about strategy and how to navigate this environment that we're currently in. Position yourself, your family, your business, and your investments to be on the right side of what I believe is the greatest wealth transfer in human history, which is already happening.
It's so much there, MC. Thank you so much for that, for sharing that. And by the way, you can learn more about MC at cashflowninja.com, cashflowninja.com. And of course, he has a podcast too, YouTube channel. So much educational opportunities there. And today we're talking about his new book, which is the 21 Best Cash Flow Niches. And we're not going to talk about all 21 today, but we're going to be touching on a few of these. That's why you want to get the book. But let's dive right into that, MC. What's the and maybe the way to put this is, what was the most surprising and surprising lucrative cash out of the 21? What's maybe the one that's most surprising or not as thought of that folks could get involved right now to get some cash flow going?
Yeah, there's some very interesting strategies, and I share one, and there's 5 bonus ones in there, spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, one of the first things that comes to mind is there's a lot of ways that people can generate wealth. And essentially, how I came up with the book, or the idea for the book, is, on my show, I've interviewed over the past six and a half years now, I've interviewed over 700 cash flow ninjas. And I went pretty wide. So we talk about real estate, business, commodities, paper assets. We've covered crypto and blockchain investments since 2016. So I went pretty wide. And the question that kept coming up was, MC, you've interviewed all these folks with all these different in different niches. What are some of the most interesting things that have been shared on your show? So eventually I put it together all in a book. And one of the things that folks can really take a look at right now, standpoint, is you cover some crypto and blockchain in there. Now, when people think about cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies, they think speculation, they think risky, they think gambling, they think buying a coin at $1 that goes to $1,000, or they think about meme coins, whether it's doggy coins and so forth. There's a very, very big array of ways of how to essentially generate cash flow in the crypto and blockchain space. And just as with all of the other niches, you can position yourself as a saver, you can position yourself as an investor, and you can also position yourself as a speculator. You can do the same thing in a lot of other niches that we cover in the book as well. So one of the strategies that I find fascinating, which I do share in the book, in that space, is actually stable coin cash flow. Now, a lot of folks that are not familiar with cryptocurrencies, maybe they've heard of Bitcoin, they've heard of Ethereum, they've heard of a couple of other cryptos, but what they're familiar with is stable coins. Now, stable coins are coins essentially mimic the price behavior of a commodity of some sort, and in most cases, it's, for example, for gold, that mimics the price behavior of gold. There are others that mimic the price behavior of the US dollar. So you can essentially have a stable coin such as USDC, which essentially is tied to the US dollar. Now, a lot of folks would look at that and say, why am I getting crypto to get away from the US dollar? Why would I want to look even interested at all in a coin that mimics the price behavior of the US dollar? Well, number one, we're still living in a world where the US dollar is the world reserve currency. It still is at the time of recording. And what happens in crypto is there's a lot of liquidity, obviously. People buy and sell and transact on exchanges. But essentially, how do you go from the world that we live in today to the crypto world to buy, for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum, or trade specifically? Well, you have to be able to convert dollars into something which can then be traded onto markets. This has created a massive demand for stablecoins because, it was just maybe investors in the beginning, such as us, that started buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these other coins. Now you've got big institutions. So just to share with you the flow of how it works, of how institutions buy crypto, is they have to move a lot of money onto an exchange, and then they want to purchase a coin, let's just say Bitcoin, at a specific price. So how do they do that? You can't essentially just go onto a crypto exchange and just switch around dollars if you're a huge institution that's moving hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of dollars on there. So what they do is they convert, let's just say, US dollar holdings into a stable coin, such as USDC or Tether or so forth, and then they move it onto an exchange. And then they set their trades, which they then trade out of the stable coin into a Bitcoin. The other thing that plays, so that's the first reason why there's a demand for stable coins, is money moving in and out of exchanges from huge institutions and other investors. The second piece is, let's say you were an early adopter of crypto, and in 2015, the Bitcoin, right? Sitting pretty nicely right now. You're sitting in a very good position. Bought it very low. It obviously has gone much higher since 2015. So how you get to access some of your profits? Well, you're going to be stuck with a very large tax problem, a capital gain. And I know you talk a lot about that on the show, solutions for folks. So what a lot of people have done is, instead of selling, let's just, for example, say their Bitcoin, they would go onto a lending platform, place it as collateral, and get a loan which is secured by the Bitcoin, which they can access liquidity or money to then pay for expenses, invest in other assets such as real estate and so forth. And that loan is tax-free, and it's usually issued in a stable coin such as USDC, for example. So there's a demand for it. So how can investors generate cash flow within the next 30 days in that specific niche? Well, because there's such a demand, folks can generate cash flow by going onto a lending platform, stable coins, swapping your US dollars for USDC, for example, and then stake it on a lending platform, and you get paid a very generous return, much more higher than you would get in any money market account, any other savings vehicle. Some of them, range from 7 to 8% that you're getting as a return on just some of the stable that you're staking. Of course, there's different interest rates, and I know folks listening to this will say, "Oh, I know of a place that you could stable coins much bigger return." There's risk involved in everything, right? So obviously you have to understand that there's different lending platforms, there's decentralized platforms, there's centralized platforms. You have to understand those risks. Centralized platforms are less riskier for newbies than, for example, decentralized. Especially if they're in the United States, they fall under the regulatory environment in the United States. The SEC oversees them. So a lot more folks are more comfortable with that. And then obviously there's a lower interest on that paid than some of the riskier stuff. But that was essentially the one crypto strategy which folks can do absolutely today. There's another one that we cover, which is a little bit different for a different
pause right there.
appetite.
Yeah, pause right there.
Yeah.
So that's really good. I want to make sure we captured all that, right? And thank you so much for sharing that. So you can stake let's say your Bitcoin or your Ethereum, let's say those are the two, against these stable coins, right? Or lending the collateral is the Bitcoin or the Ethereum, and the tool which it could be staked against or people can loan are these stable coins, of which it could be 7% interest, 8% interest, depending on the coin, maybe I'm missing something. Is that right so far?
Yeah. So here's a good way to explain it. So Elon Musk with Tesla, everybody knows Tesla shares by now. So Elon, and this was a couple of quarters ago, maybe shared in the report for Tesla, is that Elon actually borrowed against these Tesla shares up to $500 million at a very low interest rate to go and invest. So people would say, wait a second. So he didn't sell his Tesla shares? No, because he would then pay taxes on it, right? So he used these Tesla shares, and he did this through an institution which will give him a loan secured by his Tesla shares at an interest rate that he can go then and use. You could do the same thing with your Bitcoin and your Ethereum. But
just like real estate too, if you were to do like a refinance of real estate or take a second position somewhere else or cross collateralize multiple properties, essentially is what you're saying is, hey, Mr. Banker, like here's my assets, here's the value. What will you loan against that, right? And obviously, if the value goes too low, they might have a capital call. There might be a couple of things that you have some risk involved, but it's a tax-free event when you refinance, which, by the way, is essentially the way the legality of the Deferred Sales Trust works, in that you don't sell it. You don't sell it to the open market. You basically transfer or sell it to the trust in exchange for a promissory note to pay you over time. And by moving from an owner to a lender, or just maintaining ownership or becoming a lender, that capital is in a tax deferral state or a tax-free state, which is a beautiful thing. And MC, my question for you would be, well, what's the best benefit for that for the government? Because some people might say, well, why is the government allowing that? What would be your answer to that?
Well, essentially, the government know that they're going to get their money at some stage, right? They're either going to get it now or down the line. So if you stake, let's just say the USDC, if you stake stable coins, that is actually taxed every single year. You get a 1099 for that. So that's a tax as you go. So even though you might get a loan secured by your Bitcoin tax-free, as the other investor that is staking USDC, let's just say a stable coin backed by US dollars and getting paid an interest on that, yeah, you get taxed along the way. So there are taxes due on that in that strategy, and then eventually folks will sell. I mean, we see it every single year in crypto markets where folks do sell out of Bitcoin and Ethereum positions when markets go down. That's just the psychology of markets and behavioral just mindsets of investors in general. And when they sell, there's a capital gains obviously involved. So yeah, so governments will get their money. They will get their taxes paid, and they get this on the stable coins.
Now, I
So
want to
it's
pause you
not,
there, right? Because
yeah,
there's capital gains tax involved if you sell just strictly to USD. But if you use what's called a deferred sales trust, in fact, we closed the first crypto, it was an Ethereum Bitcoin case about 90 days ago for a client who bought it for about 100,000, kind of in that 2015 range, right? And it went up to as high as $13 million. So the gain was 12.9 million. And you see, MC, they didn't want to sell because of the capital gains tax, right?
yep,
But they went through during that time. They went through it. It went up to 6 million in 2017. Then it crashed in 2018. Then it went up to 9 million, and then 13 million. Then it crashed back down to like 6, and then it went back to 13. It was just all this intensity. They had never sold until they found the deferred sales trust. And so we went on to do 2 more deals, another $2.5 million Ethereum deal and another $5 million Bitcoin deal. As long as you transfer it properly into a deferred sales trust, and then the trust sells it, and you in exchange get a promissory note back, and you slowly pay tax over time. You'll get a 1099 as you receive payments back. So all of these things are why you want to get with me and or MC to become a cash flow ninja, because it's no longer just about cash flow. I say, MC, it's also about tax flow, right? And they're together. So talk about that. Talk about the tax flow strategy for how you're helping people as well.
it's going to be your biggest expense. Taxes will be your biggest expense, and the biggest obstacle for folks getting the life that they want and building out a cash flow portfolio they want is the inability to reduce their taxes. You're going to have a tax strategy, especially in a very, very fast-paced and changing environment with regards to taxes. I mean, things are going to change very, very quickly here in the next couple of months, the next couple of years. So we talk a lot about this, in my community, and we talk a lot about tax planning and how to be proactive with that. There's a couple of ways. One of the ways that we explain it is there's a framework essentially for wealth creation. You have to make your money somehow. Cash creation, everybody does that. And of course, it depends how you make that money to how you benefit from taxes. You don't get the same tax treatment if you make it in the capacity of a W-2 employee than you do, for example, making it as a business owner. So obviously, there's a lot of tax benefits for business owners and also as an investor passively, right? And then the second part of it is you have to position the capital somewhere that you've generated. So we call it cash capture, and then we look at capital allocation. I talk a lot about insurance, and specifically a dividend-paying whole life insurance policy with a mutual insurance company that's overfunded. We position capital in there because it enjoys tax-free growth. You get to borrow against your cash tax-free. Also, if you do pass away eventually, the death benefit will be paid tax free to your estate. And then you can position capital in gold and silver, use that as collateral to get loans. That's how you can borrow against your gold and silver because it's tax free, the same crypto. And of course, on the third pillar is essentially cash flow investing, which is what we all talk about. And there's different parts of a portfolio for cash flow investing. So there's certain things that you do for tax benefits. There's certain things that you do for cash flow alone, and then others for cash flow and capital appreciation. So there goes a lot into building out a cash flow portfolio. And then, of course, you have to position things for growth, which is the fourth part of this framework. And then the fifth part is protecting, building a wall around everything that you've created and produced, positioned, and then also redeployed into more cash flow investments. So tax strategy is big on that, asset and estate planning, so forth. So there's many ways to reduce taxes legally, and we cover them in all different parts of that wealth creation framework. But the you reduce your taxes legally, the more money you will have to deploy into other areas. One of the mindsets that I see a lot, and I was there at one stage too, that's the journey, especially of entrepreneurs. You always think that I just have to make more money. That's fine. I'll just make more money. I'll solve my problems by generating more revenue in my business. Well, how about you generate more revenues and you pay less tax? Now you really get to start to move the needle in what you're doing in all the aspects, because it's the biggest check you will ever write.
Very well said. MC Laubscher can be found at cashflowninja.com, cashflowninja.com. And everything that we just said is that's why you want to build a team and be in a community and connect with people that are like-minded, that are all we're all on our ninja journey of cash flow at some stage, right? And, my daughters are in jujitsu, right? And they have their white belts,
Yep.
right? And they just started out. And there's the black belt who's teaching them, right? And they're just trying to just to get it going, right? And they're battling and they're disciplined and the focus and the fundamentals, and they're on their journey of this. And then my one of my cousins, or my nieces is a better way to put it, my brother's daughter, she's like an M&A. Like she's worked her way up from jujitsu to kickboxing to all that. So she's like, getting up there, but we're all on this journey at some stage. And the key is getting involved, proactive planning, listen to podcasts like this and MC's Cashflow Ninja podcast so that you're equipped and prepared for that. So you can go to cashflowninja.com to learn about that, more about that. So I want to touch on maybe another cash flow niche, right? Of part of your book, the 21 best cash flow niches, that perhaps is a little bit more overlooked a little bit. Most of our listeners are real estate, entrepreneur, business owners. So crypto was a great one because that might be a little bit outside of where they're at. Was there something else that kind of stuck out that you want to share with our audience?
Yeah, I do cover businesses in there, and I cover untrained businesses. So one of the things I'll share, and it's kind of like the second part of the crypto, so I figured it would dovetail in nicely with this conversation, because a lot of folks say, how do you invest as an investor in that space? We know about the coins. It seems pretty risky. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a high, I would say, growth curve for learning, right? Or learning to overcome. Well, essentially, one of my favorite strategies right now is the California Gold Rush strategy in that specific space. And that includes looking at what happened during the California Gold Rush. Sure, you had the folks that were digging and panning and mining gold, but a fortune was made by folks that were building ancillary and symbiotic businesses in that space. So, for example, people that were selling the clothes, right, and the boots, and then the picks and the shovels. I mean, clothes, think about Levi Strauss, the fortune that Levi Strauss made during the California Gold Rush. Then also think about the people that were panning and mining and digging for gold. They had to stay somewhere. So real estate comes into play. They had to eat somewhere, restaurants and taverns and so forth. They had to go somewhere for entertainment. There were folks positioning themselves there. Then they had to go somewhere essentially to go bank, right? So enters Wells Fargo. That the Wells family made fortunes during the California Gold Rush. The same opportunity exists as an investor in that space, looking at businesses that are poised for massive growth in a very, very, very niche. So I'll give an example, and your listeners and viewers might appreciate this. But what do you think is going to be one of the biggest problems that crypto traders or crypto folks that were early, what are some of their biggest issues? Taxes. So there's tax firms that will specialize in that niche to crypto investors. What are some of the other issues? Well, it's fairly new. How do you transfer this to the next generation? How does this tie into estate planning? Well, guess what? There's entrepreneurs building businesses specifically in estate planning in that specific niche. So, I mean, we could go on and on, but you don't have to get even too exotic, like real basic things, tax planning, estate planning. There's a lot of different moving parts of that in that space. So I see a lot of folks making really good positions, capital positions and allocations as investors by investing directly in these companies through private placements. And then there's also another industry which is exploding. It's not even quiet anymore, but most folks know about the decentralized finance kind of niche, which DeFi is what it goes for. It's essentially crypto finance. But so there's banking, insurance, all those different industries that are starting to evolve because of the growth in that space. So there's companies that are positioned in that space already, which you can invest in. Earlier folks that have already seen dramatic results by following the California Gold Rush approach were folks that invested in platforms. There were folks that invested in Coinbase through a private placement early on and saw that company grow significantly as crypto is adopted, and eventually go public on the New York Stock Exchange. So they're now a public company that folks can buy in. There were folks that were investors that saw, well, there's going to be adoption. People are going to buy and sell crypto. A platform is a pretty good bet to make in that case. So that's just a different way of approaching. But I think a lot of folks, I think this is one that a lot of people are going to miss, and that's why I want to make sure that I share with it. It's an opportunity of a lifetime to follow that kind of same strategy as the folks that really made a fortune during the California gold rush did.
Fantastic. So much wisdom there. I absolutely love that. I'm from California, grew up in California. I live in California now, and it is gold rush. Right now, it feels like a mass exodus, right? A lot of people moving out to places like Texas and Tennessee and Florida and Nevada and Arizona. But the strategy still holds true, right? If you can make ancillary services to serve the people that are in that space, right? And I love that. Estate planning, tax deferral, all of those other things. That's what we do, right? We help people with capital, especially capital gains tax deferral. And so very cool, MC. That being said, we are running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Absolutely.
All right. So knowing what you know now, if you go back, we'll just put it a year and a half ago, pre-COVID, okay? I know because we've already had you on the show. We've done the other one when you were younger, but just pre-COVID, what's the one thing maybe you would have done differently or told yourself to do if you had a chance to do it all over again?
Yeah, my companies are all virtual, so we're in a good stuff for that. But yeah, I would say like we didn't have an in-person live event. We pushed that off to the future. Now obviously it's all virtual. So yeah, we would have probably done more with live events to have more of the in-person things that we would. Now it's obviously a different ball game. Some folks are doing it again, but it's a little bit more challenging, and it's going to continue to be more challenging. So that's probably one of the things that I thought about. It's like, man, if we had some live events, it would have been great. Maybe we'll have those in the future. You'll never know, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Cool. What are you most curious about right now for this next year that's coming up?
I'm curious to see the speed at which a lot of the new technologies which are here will be implemented and executed. We've positioned ourselves, we've talked about the fourth industrial revolution quite a bit, whether it be AI, robotics, 3D printing, the Internet of Things, 5G, all of these technologies. It's going to be pretty interesting to see at the speed at which it will be implemented because they've already started to roll out. I had surgery earlier this year. It was done by a robot. So these things are happening, and it's happening at a rapid speed. I'm very interested to see how that happens and at what rate it happens because it's going to accelerate.
Awesome. Last question. After all your success, all the people you've helped, the 700 plus interviews, releasing your new book, the 21 best cash flow niches, how do you stay centered in your values, and how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
Yeah, I think it's all about your mission and your purpose. I'm a very mission-driven person that just from an athletic background, and that helps me stay centered. And I had a dad. People ask, where does the ninja come from? My dad is a very well-known martial arts personality. Used to travel around the world and teach, 8 to 10 countries a year. He's still doing it virtually from South Africa. But the one thing that I learned from my dad was that I learned this by watching him, not by what he was telling me, but he got up every day, and he still does this. He's 73, he just turned 70, and he pursues excellence in his craft. He never thinks that he's figured it all out. He never thinks that, oh, I'm good enough. And I've taken the same approach, and that's why, the brand is called Cashflow Ninja, because I've taken the same approach to my journey as an entrepreneur, as an investor. I just want to get better every day and pursue excellence in my craft. I will never know everything that there is to know, and I love to learn. So this is something that I continue to do. And, one of the things, just interviewing some of the best minds in business and investing, is nobody has everything figured out. That we all have blind spots, and that also motivates me to continue to study, to continue to learn, to figure out what I don't know, to stay curious. And I also know that as I mentioned before, we're going through massive changes. We're going through massive disruption. We will continue to go through it, just because of all the technologies that we'll employ everywhere. So we're going to have to stay. We're going to have to stay humble. We're going to have to stay focused. We're going to have to figure out what's going on constantly and positioning ourselves as all of these things are happening. So with the right frameworks, the right models, the right tools, such as the correct mindset in your toolbox, you're going to position yourself to figure out and see things for what they are and capitalize on economic opportunities, because there will be massive amount of them.
Phenomenal. MC Laubscher, thank you so much for being on the show. I absolutely love having you on the show. I learn every single time. I'm inspired by your wisdom and your dedication to your craft and serving all of us cash flow ninjas out there, right? Trying to be cash flow ninja more and more every single day. I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, keep being on mission and being on purpose, and making a difference in people's lives. And for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time, what's the best place for them to find you?
Cashflow Ninja, cashflowninja.com. There will be a link to the book there too. It's also available on Amazon. And when they grab a copy of the book on Amazon, we'll actually, if they screenshot their receipt, send it to my team at info@cashflowninja.com. We'll give them access to a digital version, an audio version, a bonus section with curated interviews, a library of curated interviews that's covered in the book, and more bonus features. But everything's available at cashflowninja.com.
Amazing. Thanks, MC. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to the episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust and getting with someone like MC to build your cash flow education and your strategy and executing on that is the best way for you to grow your wealth. And the Deferred Sales Trust to defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax when you sell cryptocurrency, a business, save a failed 1031 exchange. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more about that. And I also want to invite you to a free mastermind. Yes, you, learning about the Deferred Sales Trust for the first time, considering it for one of your clients. Everyone is welcome. We want to connect with you, the CPA, the financial advisor, the business broker, the luxury realtor, and the investor and the owner who's selling something that is subject to capital gains tax, and you want to be empowered with your options and clarify what those are. Please join our mastermind every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to register. We're also streaming on expertcresecrets.com. We appreciate all the listeners out there, and we hope you found a ton of value today. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share this with somebody who could help out. We appreciate everyone out there, and we'll